Shall we start?
Kshama, you can, now ask Mohan sir in case he is ready.
Okay. Sir, shall we start? Sir, am I audible?
Have you made him the co-host?
Yes, ma'am.
You can make Amit sir also the co-host.
Yes, ma'am. Already done.
Okay. The moment Mohan sir is ready, we can start.
Sir, shall we start? Sir,
Amit,
you are mute.
Amit bhai, welcome.
Namaste ji. I have unmuted.
Okay. Can we start the proceedings, Kshama?
Yes, ma'am. We are ready.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and a very warm good evening to one and all present here. I, Palak, student of MA Fine Year English Department at Armada Postgraduate College, begin today's webinar with the blessings of our respected principal, Professor Rachna Dubey ma'am, and manager, Dr. Shashikant Dikshit sir. I heartily welcome our honorable speaker, Mohan Rao Balaga sir, Indic Warriors team, our convener and head of the department, Dr. Bhanumati Mishra ma'am. I also welcome respected teachers, seniors, juniors, and dear friends to this one-day webinar on the topic Unparalleled Literary Texts of Bharat. I want to extend my sincere gratitude to our respected head, Dr. Bhanumati Mishra ma'am, for providing us with this invaluable opportunity to conduct this webinar. I'm also thankful to Ananya Mishra ma'am for aiding us through the preparations for this webinar. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. I request all the participants to kindly turn off their microphones and cameras to minimize technical glitches. During the webinar, we will keep the question answer session towards the end of the session. If you have any questions, feel free to raise them in the chat box. Your active participation is important throughout the session. Now, without further ado, I request our head of the department and convener, Dr. Bhanumati Mishra ma'am, to commence the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Palak. I'm so happy. I hope I'm audible and visible too.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is a fantastic opportunity for the students to learn not just about, how to organize a thing, but also about how to interact with public intellectuals. I am so honored to invite Mr. Balaga sir, Mohan Rao Balaga sir, who's not somebody who is always there with us, who's always been with the students. He's interacted so much with us that we almost feel his family now. And Mohan sir, this is a compliment to you that you were the students' choice and not the faculty's choice. So the students wanted to hear you, and they picked up your name as a speaker, and that is a huge honor for me too, that I brought somebody who has impacted their mind so much. And I'm eagerly wanting to listen to you and what you have to say. I welcome all of the students who are today present here, and Amit Bhai, I welcome you also. Without much ado, I will want that the entire talk session should begin now. And Mohan sir, from the bottom of our hearts, from the Department of English and Arya Mahila PG College, a very hearty welcome. And any amount of thank you is less for what we feel. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to introduce Dr. Amit Singh from the Indic Warriors team. He is a doctor in York, UK. He specializes in emergency and general medicine and is currently working in family medicine. He attended medical school in Russia, then worked in New Delhi for a few years before moving to the UK. He has spent some time in the US as well. He is also pursuing masters in diplomacy and development studies at the UN. He is interested in the true Indian history, Indian culture and heritage. He is also interested in the social problems of India inflicted by the British and sweet education, that is the distorted narrative of Bharat. He's planning to open an NGO as well. Sir is continually engaged in the service and welfare of the people. I would like for this virtual speech to Dr. Amit Singh sir to share his ideas regarding the Indic Warriors and their work. Over to you, sir.
Namaste. Thank you for inviting me. I just would like to tell you about Indic Warriors. Actually, we are a group of students, and we have like students and mentors as well. And we as mentors come from different fields, and we are located all over the world. And our main, the whole aim of this Indic Warrior is to bring the Indian civilization in the revival form and tell our, young generation the true story and the true history. What we do usually, we discuss different things. We are involving students in some research projects. We do some groundwork in Banaras, and we are trying to start some other projects in North India as well. So, and we also advise our students for career guidance and what they can do in future based on their interest. So as a team, as a team of Indic Warrior, we will invite every student who wants to know more about us to join us, and we can discuss things further. And we will be very great that if we will have some engagement together to know more about our country and civilization. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, moving further, I request Nidhi, student of MA Final Year, to introduce the theme for the webinar. Over to you, Nidhi.
Thank you, Palak. Jai Hind and good evening to one and all present here. I'm Nidhi, and today I'm going to throw light on the theme, Unparalleled Literary Text of Bharat. Bharat is indeed an old name. In the Purans and other Sanskrit texts of the first centuries, it refers to the super-regional and subcontinental territory where the Brahminical system of society prevailed. We are more assured in our knowledge of its religious and cultural imagination since we can rely on textual sources. Having the status of Shruti text, Vedas embody the self-existent truth that were known to be realized by the seers of Hindu tradition through meditation. Smriti texts include Vedanga, Puran, Epic, Dharma Shastra, and Niti Shastra. Vedas are the large bodies of religious texts composed in Vedic Sanskrit and originated in ancient India. They form the oldest scriptures of Hinduism and the oldest layer of Sanskrit literature. The Vedas are said to have passed on through verbal transmission from one generation to next. Therefore, they are also known as Shruti texts. The Vedic literature consists of 4 Vedas, namely Rig Ved, Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, and Atharva Ved. The mantra text of each of the Vedas is called Samhitas. Ancient Indian literature has been a reflection of ultimate magnificence of the Indian civilization, showcasing the enormous aggregate and expertise presented by masters themselves. Perhaps no other part of the world has created such a vast amount of literature encompassing knowledge and wisdom. Thank you, and over to you, Palak.
Thank you, Nidhi. I must say, there is no text in the world which is more thrilling, stirring, and inspiring as Indic text. Now I'm getting eager to know more about Indian literary text. But before that, I request Shama, student of MA final year, to introduce our speaker for the day, Mohan Rao Balaga sir, to our esteemed audience. Over to you, Shama.
Thank you, Palak. Jai Hind, ma'am. Jai Hind, sir. Jai Hind to all our Indic warriors who are present here, our faculty members and the students. First of all, thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to introduce such an eminent man. I am pleased and so excited to introduce our speaker of the evening, Mohan Rao Balaga, sir. Welcome, sir. I am excited as he is very good and passionate about Indic culture, sociology, and history. He devotes considerable part of his spare time to the study of social anthropology and civilizational trajectories. He is an avid YouTuber and has his channel Indic Narrative, where he shares his thoughts on various aspects of Indic civilization, including current geostrategic challenges. If we are to talk about his achievement in the academic field, Mohan Rao sir is an MBA and has 40 years of professional management experience post his MBA in multiple countries, working with varied business models and environments. For the past half a dozen years, he has been running his own management consultancy firm, providing specialized services in information technology strategies, governance, security, and project management, which is based in East London, South Africa. Now, I would like to hand over this session to Mohan, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shamaji. Are you all able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, thanks. Firstly, let me thank Dr. Bhanumati, the convener for the program, and also for introducing me and welcoming you all. So thank you very much, Dr. Bhanu, for this great opportunity. Then I would like to thank Ms. Shama Rai for having interacted with me and given me the opportunity along with the topic to discuss upon, and having shown the interest and egging me on to do it. Thank you very much, Shama. Great work. Oops. Okay, I want to just, then of course I want to, sorry, I missed. Just bear with me. I tried to admit somebody in and I missed them out. Yes, I can see the screen now. I just want to, of course, I want to then also thank all the listeners and who are part of this program and watching it. And then a special mention and thanks to Dr. Amit Ji from UK, who has also joined us. And thanks to all of you. Thanks for having introduced me. All that said and done, I have a query first to ask you. That I am probably the co-host and I'm getting requests for admitting people in. Should I keep track of it and do it, or is there someone who's already doing it and I need not worry?
So we have already that technical head is doing it.
Okay, so I need not worry, right? So now no one's going to be left out if in case I don't attend to it.
No, sir, no.
Okay, cool. Thank you then. Because it was in that process that I pressed the wrong button and then I lost the screen and I have to again go back. But thank you very much. So that's fine. Now, coming over to this most interesting topic, that's about the unparalleled texts in our scriptures or in our civilization, in our culture, in our heritage. First and foremost, I want to give you a disclaimer that I am not a great expert or a recognized scholar or anything of that matter in all these things that I'm speaking. What I do have, just like your tour guide who takes you through certain monuments and gives you a full understanding of what's happening, the history and the perspective. Yes, they add a lot of embellished stories. I will steer away from that, because whatever I will talk to you is going to be more from a critical analysis and evidence-based stuff. So I will try and take it from that. But like a tour guide, I'll be talking to you about these things, because what I'm sharing with you is a particular perspective. And it's a perspective that most of the people miss it. But I am most concerned about the younger generation, because they are the ones who are going to create the future narratives. They are the ones who are going to make sure that there is justice in the world, because we have spent a considerable part of our lives running after what happens to be our normal other pursuits. But then, thanks to the upbringing that we have from our parents, thanks to some of the information that we gleaned from wherever sources, and then lately, thanks a lot to the explosion in social media and the internet, which gave us an opportunity to actually go through and check a lot of details. And then, because right from our childhood, we've always learned one thing, that we had a very glorious past. India was very rich and India had this and that. But the overriding feeling was, okay, we had all of that. We can feel proud, and we understand that we're probably having some problems today, but we need to compete. We'll get somewhere. But then the earlier we copy and the earlier we, beat the other guys at their own race, the better. But then in terms of trying to get evidence, or, trying to take on opposition views or anything like that, we were quite handicapped, because nothing much was really taught of value in our schools or history books or anything of that kind in these kind of issues. So, but then luckily now, having gone through a lot, what we have realized is that our civilization has got so much more to offer. It's not just about the fact that we were a great civilization. What matters is that that was one track. Luckily, that track has not ended. We have slightly sidetracked, but we have still kept that track and its trajectory alive, which means that we've taken on a different track now, which is having a lot of problems. But then it is our ancient civilization that has got a lot of solutions for the future. And that is where we need to understand, because the difference in between what we are doing today and what we're running after today, and what our civilization or our heritage and our culture is actually telling us, to glean from there those hidden truths and then take it forward, is a great, great challenge. And then let me tell you, you will be up against some real problems, because the established commentary today is different. And it is full of a lot of gaps and flaws, and also dubiously inserted words. Like, for instance, earlier today, just now, when some introduction was being made about this topic, the word Brahmanical was used, which meant that the Brahmanical way of life or Brahmanical society or something like that. And let me tell you again, when the moment they term it as Brahmanical, there is an element of mischief there that they bring it in. Because we are learning scholars, we do not know, we are young, we read those things and then sometimes we read them out. But in the process, we are reinforcing a particular view that later on you go and you can regret quite badly, because that is a falsified view. When we talk of something like Brahmanical, means they want to put as if it was the Brahmins who came over and then they ruled for a certain period, and that's it. It was their word was the law, and all others were almost like slaves. This is not a right narrative. Actually, it's very, very wrong. It distorts the picture so thoroughly that I will need another 2 hours on some other occasion to talk to you and tell you what the truth is there, and the truth based upon evidence, not upon false interpretations of certain texts or whatever. That was one. The other thing that we normally say is, the other word also that was used, and we also normally say it, is that we were a very oral civilization, means that we never believed much in writing, whilst other civilizations had some stone tablets or clay tablets. Ours was a very oral based, you listen to it and then do it. So they ended up calling that as Shruti. You know, the Shruti and Smriti. So ended up calling it as Shruti. Now, Shruti means that which was heard. Frankly, again, it's a wrong interpretation of Shruti. And to dub our civilization as one that did not believe much in writing, and it progressed a lot in the verbal communication, is such a distorted view. Because let me just tell you one simple example. You people know, mostly I'm sure you do, that the Nalanda University, the Ahmad Shah Abdali soldiers spent 3 months, day and night, burning the texts from the Nalanda University. For 3 months, the smoke was billowing from the playgrounds of those university because these guys were just throwing. Now imagine an army involved in dumping stuff to burn it. And this is not just one isolated incident. There are many such, and because right now that's not the topic, so I'm not going there. I've got listed with me all the other instances where this kind of a book burning happened continuously by these invaders. Now, if we were not a very textual civilization, how come we had such a volume of book that was burnt off? Then there's also the references in our manuscripts, which if you really go and list them all, it amounts to the fact that the Sanskrit literature is 30 times larger than Greek and Latin combined. So are we saying that this great civilization, which had such a large area footprint, largest in the world so far, and the most populated at that time itself, because the Indus Valley civilization itself is one of the most populated civilizations, while the Mesopotamians had 300,000, we had 5 million people. So imagine the difference between the two. So such a large civilization, are you telling me that we did not have something in writing? No, we did. We had it, probably that we were much more advanced. Our fellows didn't believe in writing on stone and carrying it at the length and breadth of India, because that's not possible. So what we did was we probably wrote on fabric, or we wrote on palm leaves or some such material, which currently has been lost. And that is why it is not available. But we depended upon oral also a lot, because remember, whilst writing was there, this was not a printing press. So to churn out millions of copies and then distribute is not possible. So hence, even though we had the writing, in order to disseminate information, our ancestors created certain intonations and methodology of listening and transmitting. Otherwise, remember the Chinese whisper? You have 10 people, you say something at this end, by the time you listen to the other end, the whole message would have, and if they whisper into each other's ear what was said at one end, what you hear at the end is very different from what was said in the first. So that what happened. Now, but here we're talking of millennia of history, where a particular text in its verbal form has been transmitted and been preserved in its original fashion. Now, to do that in itself is a great science. It's a great science. Nobody has, no other civilization has got that. It's only our civilization which has got. There's such a huge volume of text. Not only that it's been memorized, but it's been memorized in the right way and with the right intonation, so that even with the slight shift in languages, dialects, and whatever, the original meaning is not lost. And that way the text is preserved. And yet this is also one method of dispersing it to a very wide civilization. So these are some very great things that we have out there. But anyway, let's now come back to really the topic of the discussion. We're talking about what are the unparalleled texts. Now remember this is a very difficult thing. If I were to ask this in any other civilization, or even in the modern English language today, in which we are speaking, fortunately or unfortunately, that's become the lingua franca for all of us. When we are talking about unparalleled texts, this is not some commentator's commentary where you say an unparalleled movie has been created, or when Lord of the Rings was written, they said the world is divided into two parts, those who have read the book and those who haven't read the book. What's so great about Lord of the Rings is about the way the prose has been written. So yes, it does that, but is it unparalleled? Do you think the Lord of the Rings, or anything for that matter, any other book, will be remembered for 5,000 years? I doubt it. So when we're talking about unparalleled, I'm going to dwell today time permitting, into at least 3 major texts and show you how it is unparalleled. The first one I will go on is to talk about the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is an unparalleled text because not only is it the first written text of such a huge volume, is the first book of such a huge volume. Essentially, the Rig Veda consists of 10 mandalas. Each mandala consists of a set of books, and that is in one lineage. Essentially, a good number of these mandalas are the ones authored by a particular rishi, and it is, even though the rishi is always attributed as one person, it seems to be from his family or from his ashram, because the books are over a period of time. So at least the Rig Veda has been compiled over 1,000 years. But that doesn't make it great. That's fine. 1,000 years, voluminous, everything. The Rig Veda has been a key to many things. First and foremost, it tells you a timeline because there's a change in language from the oldest mandala to the newest. It tells you that. Secondly, a lot of mythology around the gods. You know, the Greek gods, the Latin gods, they also had their own gods, you know, the thunder god, the rain god, and all these things. But they also had similar stories, but it could never be deciphered clearly. What is the origin? What is the thinking? What is the root of it? Only once the Rig Veda was understood and interpreted, a lot of those stories became clear. Why? Because those stories also are dependent upon the Rig Veda. It was these people who carried those stories to all those places and disseminated it. So be that as it may, again, even that is not making it the most unparalleled. I call it the unparalleled. And बच्चों, इस बात को ध्यान से गौर से दीजिए, क्योंकि ये आपकी धरोहर है. इसे आप ही ने संभाल के आगे लेके जाना है, नहीं तो we are likely to forget it too. Most important thing, जो कहीं भी दुनिया में नहीं है, कि ऋग्वेद में is the concept of अद्वैता. आदि शंकरा ने अद्वैता का कॉन्सेप्ट दिया है, लेकिन उन्होंने ये नहीं कहा कि मैंने ये that I have brought about this. All that he has done is he has reminded people of the Vedas and extrapolated the same to explain and once again make it popular. Advaita में क्या है? Advaita में the simple thing is it defines the very fundamental part of religion and who is God and what is God. तो अद्वैता जो हमें ऋग्वेद ने दिया है, एक वही एक चीज है इस पूरे दुनिया के सारे संसार के all religions में, जहां पे the whole thing depends upon a Brahman. Brahman means उसमें the concept that they try to tell in the Rig Veda is that there are two kinds of Brahman, Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman means that which has got attributes and forms, यानी कि जिसी भी चीज में कोई भी definition हो, जिसका कोई रूप हो, रंग हो, स्वाद हो, कुछ भी हो, यानी जो कुछ हमें दिखता है, our whole entire visible universe, everything that is there as physical reality is Saguna Brahman. Means what? It is the same origin from the Brahman, but it is that part of Brahman which has been given a shape and a form. And then there's a Nirguna Brahman. That means ki in sabke andar there is something else which is formless, definitionless, beginningless, endless, whatever, all pervading, and that's a Brahman. Now, don't confuse this Brahman with the Brahmin caste. Here, Brahman comes from the word Brahma, actually from Brahma. Brahma मतलब हमें भ्रम होता है ना, हम जो भी देखते हैं, हम सोचते हैं सच है, लेकिन ये सत्य नहीं है. This truth doesn't last long. So anything that's temporary is not reality. So इसलिए इसको illusion का है, ब्रह्म. इसके ओनर कौन है? ब्रह्मा. तो इसलिए हम बोलते हैं अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, क्योंकि ये illusion कौन बनाया? हम ही ने बनाया. हम अपने आंखों से देखते हैं, अपने मन मस्तिष्क से सोचते हैं, उसी से बनाते हैं. So we are the creator of the universe. इसीलिए हमने अपना को वो बोला है. और इस यूनिवर्स को फिर क्या बोलते हैं? ब्रह्मांड बोलते हैं. ठीक है जी. एंड इन सब का जो अंडरलाइंग है उसे क्या बोलते हैं? उसे ब्राह्मण कहते हैं. So it is that Brahman. Now imagine, why is this concept so unique? Because even as per your as per your quantum physics, वहां पे भी जो आजकल जो scientists कर रहे हैं, all that they can do is, because they can't say accept religion, they have to forcefully say कि it must be consciousness. So what is coming out is कि जब इस दुनिया में since everything is everything is actually not permanent. So what is there? तो बुद्धिज्म में उन्होंने कहा कि if this is all non-permanent, then the end thing is zero. That means अगर पूरी यूनिवर्स समाप्त हो जाए, when if there nothing, then it is nothing. It is zero. So they believe in something which they call zero. But it was against the Vedas, because the Vedas has already gone beyond that. क्योंकि शंकराचार्य जब आए थे उन्होंने यही कहा, उन्होंने कहा कि if everything is not permanent, how would you know? Unless there is something permanent. मतलब ये है कि if all of us are moving, how will you know? Because you have to compare it against something that not moving ना. आपने कभी देखा होगा अगर आप एयरक्राफ्ट में हो तो आपको लगता नहीं कि मूव कर रहे हैं. Forget the small slight vibration. Otherwise you never come to know. You unless कि आप खिड़की से नीचे देखते हो तो you see slowly moving, then you know you are moving. Or if you see a strand of cloud going past your window in high speed, then you realize, oh, we're moving. Otherwise you don't get to know you're moving. So in order to know you're moving, you need something that doesn't move. So in order to know that this entire universe is not permanent, you need something permanent. What is that permanent? That's Brahman. अगर Brahman permanent नहीं है तो हमें ये पता नहीं चलेगा कि you see this is all theoretical. देखिए, nobody has died and come back to tell you this, not even in the Vedas. But yet with their minds they have seen, foreseen and written it there, and they have written something so profound for this world. It is unparalleled, because they are saying theoretically, logically they're proving and saying if everything is permanent, there has to be something that is impermanent, then there has to be something that's permanent, and they named that as Brahman. The other thing is when the Buddhists came and said, but then we are saying that Brahman has got no factors or no form or anything, so it is zero. Then they said, hey, but you do agree that this universe has come from that, right? So again, as per mathematical logic, a true zero is zero. It doesn't have anything. How can you take out a whole universe from zero and call it zero? ध्यान दिया आपने कि अगर आप जीरो से पूरा यूनिवर्स निकाले हो एंड वापस ये उसी में चले जाएगा खत्म होके, then how can you call it zero? इसीलिए हिंदुइज्म में उसको ब्राह्मण कहा है, जीरो नहीं कहा है. एंड ये ज्ञान वेद में दिया है, एंड ये ज्ञान even as per current scholars is at least 5,000 years old. We believe if we go by the proper logic that probably the Vedas are anywhere from 5 to 7,000 or even 10,000 years old. But 5,000 साल पहले ही दुनिया को हमने एक ये सत्य बताया है, a तर्क, a logic that is very difficult to beat. Today even quantum mechanics and quantum physics has to fall for it. And that has come from the Vedas. So that is one very, very important text. It is unfortunate we are not taught that in our schools or anywhere, or we as any individual, any Indian, because it is our heritage. If we don't learn it and tell the world, इसीलिए तो वो फिरंगी लोग आके हरे राम हरे कृष्णा बोल के घूमते रहते हैं हमारा चीज सुन के, बट वो जब सुनते हैं तो वो पूरा उतनी तरह समझ नहीं पाते जिस तरह से हम समझते हैं, क्योंकि हमारी अपब्रिंगिंग है, हमारी एक सोच है, एंड ये सोच जिंदगी भर में बनती है. तो इसी तरह से जब आप पढ़ोगे या कोई और उसे रीड करता है तो फर्क रहता है उसमें. There's a difference in the way you understand. Can you imagine from their whole environment, they transport themselves into this and then they learn from this and then they take away. लेकिन हम अपना भूल बैठे. So it's a very important thing. हमारा जो ये ऋग्वेद में हम जो कहते हैं ना, the concept of Advaita, because there is nothing else that can beat it. Because everybody, आप भगवान को जो भी रूप दे दो, मैं कहूँ, लेकिन हर कोई नाश्वरी था ना. तो even our Ram and Krishna are also sargun Brahman, मतलब कि वो लोग ब्राह्मण से ही उनके अंदर गुद अवतार पुरुष है. वो आप और हम भी अवतार ही, लेकिन वो अवतार पुरुष हैं because they have shown the way, because they have a much bigger part of the Brahman in them. They have encapsulated that knowledge, the universal knowledge, and they were able to transmit, and they were able to show the way to humanity. Some of their teachers and preachers have also done that, whether they belong to Hinduism or otherwise, doesn't matter. Here we're not talking of religion, we're talking about the ancient texts from our, but this is a question of philosophy. His philosophy has become the central theme of our religion. But when we talk about Brahman, we don't have to think it's about religion. आप जिसको religion समझना समझे, लेकिन मेरे लिए philosophy. And what use is my religion if it does not matter to tell me what is the right philosophy in my life? क्योंकि इसको समझ के then I can move in the world. It tells me कि ultimate truth एक चीज है कि whatever I see is not permanent. In that there is no doubt. Everything has got a lifetime. Even our sun has a lifetime. So there has to be some ultimate reality because we have all come. And then the fact that the ultimate reality is one Brahman, which is non-duality. And that Brahman is the one which is also the universe because it manifests itself into the universe. It manifests itself into me and you. इसीलिए मेरे में आप में कोई अंतर ही नहीं है. Ultimately, we all are one. What a unifying message. 5,000 years ago से ये एक unifying message. आज दुनिया अगर इस मैसेज को समझ के अगर ये इतना पहचान ले कि मेरे में और उस अफगानी में कोई फर्क नहीं, हम दोनों एक ही थे, अरे काश कर पाते. लेकिन इस लेसन को हमें याद करके लेके जाना है. So I understand whilst you are reading Shakespeare and Toynbee and Alfred Tennyson everything, बहुत अच्छी बातें हैं, दुनिया में जरूर सीखे, सब कुछ कीजिए, लेकिन हम लोग के टेक्स्ट में जो कुछ खास सार है ये ना भूलें. So this is one great unparalleled contribution on our text which we have given to the world. The second one I want to come back upon is Panini's Ashtadhyayi. Marvelous book. It's considered one of the greatest inventions of humanity. But does it get sung so often? नहीं, यहाँ वहाँ बोलते हैं, हमको उसी को लेके हमें बोला पड़ता है. देखिए इतने scholars ने बोला है, it's a most important text, it's a unparalleled invention. Why do they call it that? They call it that way because in 8 chapters, because when Panini created this, he also knew that it can be written down, but the written down versions, how many will you make? You can't make millions. But how will the millions learn the correct form of language so that we are able to create? क्योंकि हमारा एक spoken Sanskrit रहा है all along, and it's been transforming, changing dialects, ये सब कुछ. तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये सब लेके he then created a particular grammar as a foundation, and that, as per the modern historians, he's at least 2,500 years ago. हमारे हिसाब से it is more than 3,000 years ago, but कोई बात नहीं, no dispute about it. The point is he created a grammar which is so vibrant and so specific. Abhi, for example, he has created it in such a way that you are able to by heart it and go, and then you are able to transmit it. So this learning goes on. Widespread dissemination. By WhatsApp तो था नहीं तब, तो यही एक तरह का WhatsApp है हमारा. You have done it through, verbal transmission. But what is so special about the language that he created, the grammar that he created, Ashtadhyayi? That has laid the foundations for linguistic comparison and also for the subject of linguistic philology. Because only through Sanskrit they realized that 160 to 200 languages of the world are actually linked to Sanskrit. So Sanskrit is the one that is created, which is the mother of all these languages. And ये अगर mother of all these languages अगर संस्कृत से आए हैं, that is because in Sanskrit they have realized Sanskrit is the only language जिसमें they have connected. Number one thing they said, when the world was created, light and sound were created at the same time. What you see is created by the light falling on it and then coming back into your retina. That is what you see. Otherwise, darkness में आपको दिखता ही नहीं. लेकिन वो जब बना तो एक वाइब्रेशन रहा है, एंड वाइब्रेशन अगर रहा तो देयर विल बी अ साउंड. सो दे हैव आइडेंटिफाइड टू से कि ये साउंड्स है, उसी साउंड से हम भी बने हैं. सो हमारे अंदर जो साउंड्स हैं, दे सेड देयर हैज टू बी सम इंट्रिंसिक इमोशंस टू एवरी साउंड. So they then identified through deep study the linkages between our emotions and those sounds, and then they linked those sounds to a meaning. And that is how they brought out the meaning of ma, pa, ka, all these things have created meaning. That's another vast subject. मेरे को 2-3 घंटे लग जाए. मैं expert तो नहीं हूँ दोस्तों. I have also learned and read and studied and all that. लेकिन इतना सीख के इतना मजा आया, इतना आनंद आया, कभी कभी मन करता है काश एक बार और जन्म हो जाए. लेकिन अगली बार हो तो मुझे जरूर बचपन से वेद और अष्टाध्यायी और ये चीजें सिखाएं, क्योंकि इसमें इतना ज्ञान छुपा हुआ है. It is not, it's unparalleled. No other language, any other language like vanilla. अभी आप देखिए इंग्लिश के अल्फाबेट से A to Z, किसी अल्फाबेट का कोई मीनिंग या साउंड का कोई इंटरप्रिटेशन, नथिंग. ये they don't even have vowels and consonants as separate. हम लोगों ने, aren't we more advanced? हमारे पूरे वर्नाकुलर में आपने देखा होगा कि vowels अलग हैं, consonants अलग हैं. Consonants are all those sounds that you make when you make some obstruction, either with your lips or with your teeth or with your tongue. Those are all consonants. Baki vowels. अंग्रेजी में तो ऐसा कुछ है ही नहीं. And that has become our language. Now imagine, we say that if you have read the dictionary, every other book is a remix. You understand this joke? Because if all the words are there in the dictionary, if you read the dictionary, then all other books that you're reading are basically a remix of the dictionary, or, because those words you find in the dictionary. But that whole literature is based upon the most fundamental thing, which is just the alphabets. Compare those alphabets to compare the Varnamala that you have. If these alphabets are vanilla, then that Varnamala is your caramel, blueberry, raspberry, all the flavors. So if these alphabets A to Z is like the white color, the rest is the rainbow colors. तो ये जो white color है, इसमें आप off white ले लो, deep white ले लो, bright white ले लो, cheat white ले लो, जो भी ले, उससे पूरी दुनिया बना दी. अगर आप समझे आपने अपनी पेंटिंग खाली white color और different shades of white से बनाई, और वहां पे दूसरे पेंटिंग बना हुआ है, which you can do with a different full colors of all 7 colors. What's the difference? तो उनके alphabet, our alphabets have got that. So you create the words from. And here you're creating a language just from a variation of white, because A to Z है, उसमें उसी में से उन्होंने तोड़ के vowels बनाए, वही बनाया. अगर इनको इतना grammar लिखना है तो इतना मोटा होके भी वो define नहीं करता है. It is the most confusing to robotics, because when I say a word, they don't understand. If I say wound or wound, वो spelling और pronunciation से ही फर्क पड़ता है. But क्यों है, put क्यों है, all these things, you know, all those anomalies of English. And in English, unless and until you understand every name of every object, you don't have learned the language. But in Sanskrit, you know the meaning of every sound. So if you want to see an object और आपको लगी इस object का ये property है, तो आप संस्कृत के sound से वो निकालो तो word बन जाता है संस्कृत में. That's the literature. And that's the literature that was created by Panini, from having drawn from all the sages and seers. He took the best. He used about 2,000. There were 32,000 root sounds, but he took 2,000, codified them, and created a grammatical book, a book of grammar that then became the written lingua franca of the entire Bharatvarsha. Not only that, I think of the whole of Eurasia, because the seeds of these words are found across from Japan to Ireland to North Africa. You will find these words. उन्होंने वो चीज create किया. And then remember, and it's also known as the machine language. It's considered the best for computing. I'll tell you why. Because अभी जैसे अष्टाध्यायी में उन्होंने क्या किया, उन्होंने बोला कि Mahesh filled his car with all the grocery items that he brought from the shop. Full stop. Mahesh then drove his car home. आपने जिन्होंने second sentence पढ़ा है, all those people will know that Mahesh drove home with all the groceries. But those who read only the second sentence will not know the car contained groceries. So it means the second sentence was dependent upon the first sentence for you to understand the full meaning. समझे? अष्टाध्यायी में उन्होंने इस तरह के 11 levels create किए, so that by just telling Mahesh drove home with his car, you already know who is Mahesh, where did he come from, which shop did he go, what groceries did he buy, what did he fill it there, how much he paid for it, and blah 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 blah. So एक line पढ़ के आप पूरे 11 याद पद समझ में आ जाता है. That is how he is compressed. क्या intelligence है. And he did that with language. A language that is spoken in a land of the size of India, the largest civilization on the globe, and different dialects, different history, क्या कुछ लेके उस सबको निकाल के he created a great book. And that book is leading the light today for machine language, for robotics, as the mother of so many languages, as the mother of the study of philology. उस language को हम लोग ancient language है, time pass हो गया जैसा, it's been passed with hell by date बल के छोड़ दिए. अगर हम लोग खूनी नहीं तो क्या? I feel ashamed that I learned Sanskrit for 2 years in my school, and the only objective was बड़े marks बड़े मिलते हैं संस्कृत में, थोड़ा सा रट्टा लगाओ फटाफट, बालकम बालिके बालिके कर लिया, हो गया, खत्म हो गया. हमें उस टाइम भी प्यार तो था, लेकिन जिस तरह से पढ़ाया उसके बेसिस पे ना हम कुछ और बुक्स पढ़ पाए, ना टेक्स्ट कर पाए. मतलब एक चीज होता है ना भैया, 2 साल फ्रेंच पढ़ लो तो लोग पूरा फ्रेंच को पीछे पड़ जाते, समझ में आ जाता है, लेकिन हम लोग संस्कृत को कर नहीं करते. And people talk of Sanskrit as being difficult. It's actually the most easiest language. और आज पॉलिटिक्स के चक्कर में जर्मनी सिखा देगा फ्रांस संस्कृत, हमारे स्कूल्स में नहीं सिखाएंगे। क्या करके रख दिया हमने हमारे आप। It has got nothing to do with religion. Number system हमने create किया, is that something to do with Hinduism? We call it Hindu numerals. The people who don't know call it Arab numerals because the Arabs have taken it to the West and given it to there. But otherwise, everybody acknowledges they're Hindu numerals. Because they're Hindu numerals, should we stop using number system? Should we not teach our children Sanskrit and then the way it is? Because it has got the meaning and the sound. And it's one of the best languages created, the most compact, the most precise, machine type. देखिए एक और बात आपको कहता हूं, the most important thing, every language, the motive has been to communicate. हर एक communicate करना है, so इसे मैं communicate करता हूं, करते करते communication इतना हो गया सर कि it's become noise. Today we are creating noise. Not so with Sanskrit. Sanskrit में the ultimate goal was to bring about silence. How can you bring silence? You can bring silence only when you have completely expressed yourself. How do you completely express yourself? Only when you have used the perfect language, because the way you can extrapolate the meaning and the most precise fashion that you communicate, कि उसमें कुछ बच नहीं गया बोलने। एक बार आपको जब बच नहीं जाता कुछ कहने को, आप चुप नहीं तो क्या हो जाओगे फिर बताओ? That is the silence we mean. आप क्या गोल है देखिए, the goal itself will define how far you'll go. So one goal is वहां पे जहां पे इतना शोर मच रहा है, आज भी टीवी में देखते हैं आप क्या शोर मचे रहता है। काश हम जिसका गोल ये था कि हम अपने आप को एक्सप्रेस कर पाए और शांति रहे, उस गोल से अगर हम जाते तो उस टाइप का लैंग्वेज, shouldn't we have taken that and adopt that and take it? So once again, a great gift. It's the unparalleled text which our heritage and our civilization has given to the world. After the Vedas, the other one is Ashtadhyayi by Parini. A third one that I'll go to, but I'll spend only 2-3 minutes on it, maybe some other time. That's about Natya Shastra. Natya Shastra took about 1500 years because various authors have compiled it together. But the original one was started by Bharat Muni. And Bharat Muni, as per current historians and Indologists, is roughly about 400 to 600 years BC, 2600 साल पहले का। हमारे पुराणों के हिसाब से तो कम से कम 3000 साल पुराने हैं, 3 से 3.5 4,000 साल पुराने होंगे। लेकिन भरत मुनि ने जब उन्होंने नाट्य शास्त्र बनाया तो he wrote a treatise, he wrote a book. And again, just like Sanskrit, he sets the goal. आप ध्यान दीजिए, आपका जो विजनरी स्टेटमेंट होता है, आपका जो विजन गोल होता है, that's the most important goal that defines every activity that you then create along the way. जिसका गोल ही इतना ही हो, वो कितना दूर जाएगा। इसमें अगेन आप गोल देखिए, today's नाट्य शास्त्र is all about stage and the entertainment industry. ठीक है, आज का जो एंटरटेनमेंट इंडस्ट्री का गोल है, बार बार हम लोग बोलते हैं, मूवीज में भी बता देते हैं, is entertainment, 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 and we think that वाह क्या स्टेटमेंट बोला है, सच में is all about entertainment. But frankly, that is also lowering down the quality that you're getting out of your arts and crafts. Because when you say entertainment, entertainment, it only means mindless entertainment. इनको खुश कर दो, 3 घंटे आप हॉल में बैठे हो, 2 घंटे बैठे हो, अरे भैया एंजॉय कर लिए, बाहर चले गए, पता नहीं क्या, फिर याद भी नहीं आता बात। But then what did Bharat Muni state as his goal? He said entertainment is a desired effect of the performance, no doubt. But the primary goal is that the audience must be transported to a parallel universe where he experiences the essence of his consciousness and reflects on spiritual and moral questions. आपने भी देखा होगा, कुछ मूवीज होती हैं, इंटरवल खत्म होने के बाद आपको मन नहीं करता खड़े होने का, थोड़ी देर आप रिफ्लेक्ट करते हो, फिर आप निकल रहे हो, भीड़ में से आप बाहर जाते टाइम भी आपका माइंड वहीं रहता है, क्योंकि आप सवालों को टटोल रहे हो, you are trying to get something, and then it lingers on for a long time. Because don't you think you enjoy that kind of a movie much more than something in which you probably had a lot of fights, zing bang, laser guns? अच्छा लगता है, बहुत ही टेक्नोलॉजी यूज होता है उसमें, but the one that lingers, the dramatic effects, makes a big difference. That is why they say the primary goal of entertainment is to transport the audience into a parallel universe where he experiences the essence of his own consciousness, and then he queries upon the moral and ethical questions and spirituality. So ये चीजों को जब आप मतलब it is raising your consciousness. Ultimately नाट्य शास्त्र का ये गोल है. तो उसके बेस पे क्या होता है फिर? Various forms of नाट्य शास्त्र created, right? And there's so much of classification. And we are talking this at a time when the world was probably still hunting for food. और हम यहाँ पे इतने बड़े goals की. So again, the नाट्य शास्त्र is another unparalleled text. Nothing to beat it, nothing of that kind in the world today to exist, and the oldest in that. And it takes everything into action already. आपके word, the music, the background, उसका even you know when you say something but you don't mean that, it means something else. Even that has been factored into the whole नाट्य शास्त्र. आप में से किसी ने कभी पढ़ा है? आज पहली बार सुन रहे होंगे कुछ लोग तो इस बुक के बारे में या इस body of text के बारे में, which is called Alankar Shastra. Alankar Shastra started from Natya Shastra, and Alankar Shastra even up to 1200 AD, great authors have been adding text to that. ये पूरा मिला के हमारा अलंकार शास्त्र क्या richness है, कितना arts and crafts. We can't beat them. So when it comes to literature, these are some of the biggest things that are there. But I think in the interest of time, doston, pyare mitron, I will have to hold it back here and I will open the floor over to you. Shama ji, you can come back. Shama chahta hu ki maine bahut samay le liya aapka, but I hope you enjoyed the thing, and please ask your questions and I am happy to answer them to the best of my knowledge. Lekin please, my young friends, keep this heritage and jyot se jyot jalate jao, duniya ko roshan kar do. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights on the topic. Your talk was extremely enlightening and will certainly help us in developing new perspectives in the domain of Indian literary text. Now we'll go ahead and take some time for questions. I request Neha, student of MA final year, for the question answer session. Over to you, Neha.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to listen to you. Particularly our brothers, if you like.
I have lost Neha there. I haven't been able to hear anything. I don't know if others are hearing, and if someone can tell me what a question is.
So sorry for the glitches, and the questions are, the question first, why are the ancient texts or the knowledge of the scriptures were not reinforced in the current educational system? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Veda. I think that's the paramount question on all our minds. What happened is, iske liye again, in order to tell you about that, it might take a whole 1 hour session, but then I'll try and tell you probably in a few sentences. पहली बात तो कि जब हम लोग का freedom struggle हुआ ना, so at that time the British played between the Muslims in the country, because the Muslims were led by Jinnah and all those things, and then the other part, which is Gandhiji and all the leadership. So somewhere what happened is, along the line, the Congress party, in order to try and make sure that this Muslim League and all don't feel alienated, because they kept on talking about breaking the country. So in order to not alienate them, in log kya kar de, ye log bahut zyada non-religious ho jane ki koshish ki. Now the thing is ki bachcho, lekin you see 10,000 साल से, क्योंकि हिंदू रिलीजन ना वो ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई प्रॉफिट ने किया एंड वो सारे उसको बिलीव करते आगे, तो बाकी सब कुछ अलग चीज है, ऐसा नहीं है। हिंदू रिलीजन क्या है ना कि एवरीथिंग इज पार्ट ऑफ इट, बिकॉज द कल्चर एंड द रिलीजन आर एक्चुअली वेरी इंटरचेंजेबल। ओनली डिफरेंस इज अगर आप थोड़ा सा कौन सी मूर्ति रख के पूजा करते हो घर में, अगर वो एक हटाओ तो फर्क नहीं कुछ। हिंदुइज्म एंड वे ऑफ लाइफ दोनों एक ही जैसे। तो इन लोगों ने क्या किया है, बट बिकॉज एवरीथिंग इज इंटरलिंक्ड ना, तो इन लोगों ने क्या किया कि दे ट्राई टू डाउन प्ले आवर कल्चर एंड हेरिटेज। एंड देन व्हेन द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ कांग्रेस केम थ्रू इनटू पावर, they completely dissociated themselves from the ancient, wisdom and knowledge that we had. And एक नए जोश में स्टार्ट हो गए। उस टाइम क्या था कि तो एटलीस्ट पहले 10 साल तो ये था नई दुनिया है, न्यू साइंस, नई दुनिया बनाएंगे, हम हैं हिंदुस्तानी, मिलकर जोश लगाएंगे, ये है वो है। And in that process, all thing got forgotten completely. And then later what happened is the politics came into it. Now what happened कि आप थोड़ा भी कुछ लेके आओ तो there's the minorities who start feeling very very alienated. अब उनके वोट्स के चक्कर में इन्होंने जो थोड़ा बहुत बचा था उसे भी दबाने लग गए। So what happened? We became a very very artificial civilization for the last 60-70 years. तो हमने फ्रीडम पाके भी हमारा colonial mind colonial में रह गया। So we have not transformed out of that. तो उससे क्या हुआ कि we spent 70 years and then पता लगा अरे ये कितना खोखले निकले ये, क्योंकि so much of thing is there and we did not take it. That I think is a very very simplistic and very high level explanation कि क्यों ये सब कुछ थे नहीं. So what happened? We ended up just copying the West and denouncing what was our own. So पहली बात तो ये होता है कि अभी देखिए बच्चे लोग हैं, कभी कभी कुछ बच्चे कहते हैं कि मम्मा आप स्कूल मत आना। क्यों बोलते हैं? क्योंकि मम्मा हमेशा ट्रेडिशनल ड्रेस में रहती है, उनको अच्छा नहीं लगता कि बाकी लोग देखे तो कहे इन पे हंसी उड़ाएंगे। हम लोग ऐसे बन गए बच्चों। अपनी ही माँ को इंस्टेड ऑफ बीइंग प्राउड ऑफ हर, हमने उसको उसके रंग रूप पे ड्रेस पे किया। अरे वो बेचारी सैक्रिफाइस कर करके अपने लिए ड्रेस नहीं खरीदी, मेरे को सब बना के मेरे को बस स्कूल में भेजी है, और वहीं पे मैं कहता हूँ माँ तुम मत आना क्योंकि देखेंगे तो लोग मुझे हंसेंगे। हम लोगों ने ना हमारी संस्कृति को ऐसे कर दिया। कमाल करते, हमारी संस्कृति के कारण ही तो हम हैं, उसी से तो हम बने हैं, और हम उसी माँ को पहचानने से इनकार कर दिए। तो क्या हुआ, करते करते अल्टीमेटली वो माँ को स्कूल नहीं आना छोड़ो, माँ को फिर पहचानने ही बंद कर दिया। So this is what happens. It starts with a small embarrassment and then it goes on. So never be embarrassed because there's nothing to be embarrassed. अगर आप embarrassed हो तो सवाल कीजिए, पूछिए, उनसे पूछिए जिनके पास उत्तर हो, जरूर आपको दिशा मिलेगा। Thanks.
Thank you.
हाँ जी, over to you.
So the next question. So the next question asked by Aditi, I'm a final year student, and so her question is, what influence foreign contact has led on the development of Indian language?
देखिए, I'm not a linguistic expert to give you a very precise scientific answer, but if you really ask me from my experience, the foreign languages have hardly influenced our languages, because let us tell you one thing. The very fact that if you look at India, Sanskrit is one root language, Tamil is another root language, Munda is another root language. So we got some of these root languages, but then there have been so many dialects, so many other languages that have come from there. कि आज हम लोग बहुत सारे languages in India, and all these languages, the only one influence that has happened, Urdu, which is kind of a mix. Urdu में क्या है? Urdu is a mix of Hindi, which comes from Sanskrit. It's a mix of Farsi, which comes again from Sanskrit. Farsi is 80% Sanskrit, 20% Arabic. And then very little part of Arabic. This is Urdu. So Urdu is actually predominantly, even there, is actually a derivative of Sanskrit, largely. Lekin, because it became the language of the Mughal courts, I mean, Farsi was their language, so ultimately, masses में Urdu जो है ना common हो गया उस time. Apart from that, a lot of words from our language like Balti, Bungalow, Bazaar have all gone into the English language. So they have taken those languages. So we have, क्या होता है कि जब आपकी civilization इतनी घड़ी हुई है ना अच्छी तरह से, being so ancient, being so proficient, being so scientific, being so rich, there's very little you borrow. On the contrary, who come, they borrow from you and then they go. So the borrowings have not been much. It's been little. जैसे आज हम मोबाइल फोन कहते हैं तो अंग्रेजी वर्ड है, but हिंदी में भी समझ में आ जाता है. So that kind of thing has been there. But really, in terms of everything else as a language, nothing to beat the Ashtadhyayi, from which springs all our languages. And yeah, maybe that's answering your question. I do not know if there's any different variation. Please feel free.
Okay, sir. So the next question asked by Sohini Hazra, MA final year student. And so her question is, so do you think that our emphasis has shifted from knowledge and wisdom to earn bread for the family, which has ultimately led to the loss of tradition?
फिर से कहिए.
So her question is, so do you think that our emphasis has shifted from knowledge and wisdom to earn bread for the family, which has ultimately led to the loss of tradition?
Yes, very much. And इसमें बहुत सारा सत्य छिपा हुआ है इस प्रश्न में कि we are the only civilization that's a knowledge civilization. क्योंकि आप देखी जाए तो there's been a great stress, क्योंकि बहुत early हमारे civilization में हमारे ancient ancestors ने realize कर दिया कि एक तो हम बहुत large land है, कहाँ से लेके कहाँ तक, I mean almost from tips of Afghanistan to the tip of Tamil Nadu, हम सबका एक ही कल्चर रहा है more or less. बट देखिए प्रांत में डिफरेंस रहेगा. उसके बावजूद अभी देखिए आज तो मैंने महाभारत और रामायण का तो बात ही नहीं किया, अनपैरेलल्ड में तो उनको तो गिनी लो, बट एनीवे. तो in spite of that, what they have done is they have found ways and methods to transmit knowledge to everybody and become one of the most vibrating and the most prosperous civilizations on earth that has ever been there. Even today's civilization, the modern one, has not been as prosperous as that civilization, जिसके हम अभी भी पार्ट है. तो लेकिन ये सब कहाँ छूटा? ये तब छूटा जब वो सिस्टम्स को बिगाड़ा गया. One, what happened was that the continuous onset of barbaric invaders who came on into the country, some settled, some looted and left. तो ये बहुत इसने uproot किया लाइफ को. लेकिन फिर भी काफी सिस्टम फिर भी चलते रहे, संस्कृत फिर भी चलता रहा, इवन रिलीजन के ऊपर प्रॉब्लम रहा तो भी by the Islamic invaders, फिर भी संस्कृत को काफी हद तक जिंदा रखा गया. लेकिन उसके बाद जब ब्रिटिशर्स आए तो they completely dismantled the system. So all your ways and means of earning money, जैसे आज कोविड में बहुत लोगों की रोजी रोटी चली गई, इसी तरह से एक कोविड की तरह ही कॉलोनियलिज्म ने आके हमारे पूरे सिस्टम्स बिगाड़ दिए. Whether it is weaving systems, pottering systems, or जो भी arts and crafts, I mean some generations would create the temple sculptures. अगर आप कुछ exquisite sculptures देखते हैं मंदिरों में, वो कुछ बेटा पिता बेटा पोता, they have all learned from the other and then continued creating that. It has taken some generations to finish those sculptures. इतना beauty है उनमें. That whole thing has been dismantled. एक बार वो dismantled हो गया तो now you become the vanilla types. अब हम इधर भागते हैं. अब every generation जब से वो लोग पैदा होते हैं एक इनसिक्योरिटी रहता है, भैया क्या करूं, पढ़ाई करना है, क्योंकि फादर से कुछ सीखेंगे नहीं, फादर तो नौकरी करके छोड़ दिया, अब मेरे को भी उठना है, पढ़ाई करना है, कहीं नौकरी लेना है या कुछ करके पैसे कमाने, नहीं तो भूखे मर जाएंगे. We have lost our traditions. Very right.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So the next question asked by Satakshi, MA final year student. And so her question is, sir, do you think the old age homes in our society signify today arts of society, today arts of living?
Is the question asking me that the old age homes in our society, is it reflecting our art of living in our society today?
Yes, sir.
Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. देखिए ऐसा है कि the whole system has been changed. पहले का system क्या था कि the skill would be transferred from one generation to the other within the same family. The families will be together. इसी से जाति का concept बना है. क्योंकि they were all doing it, and then क्या होता है कि over centuries ना, over generations, वो लोग जो art और जो craft create करते हैं ना, it becomes unparalleled in the world. ठीक है? But then the child who is born in that family, he's not insecure. He knows कि मेरे को ये सीखना है, मैं इसी में and इसमें ही मैं आगे चलाऊंगा, इसकी डिमांड है. ठीक है? तो वो चलता रहता है. Now वो टूट गया. अब वो joint family, that whole thing is broken down. Every person now, a whole life is a whole new cycle. Every child, the moment he is born, is a whole new cycle. We may call it freedom. बड़े खुश हो सकते हैं, लेकिन इस freedom के साथ आता है total uncertainty. Now, in this situation, what happens is the old parents are left out. Now you are pursuing you call it dreams to give it a nice look, but factually you are pursuing your slavery to money and wealth, to get it from wherever you can. अब आप दूर चले जाते हो, parents को who will look after? And because there's nothing else, and the joint system, that living together, that whole structure is broken down. So then the old age homes start becoming popular. So yes, we might look like we're aping the West, but actually we're not just copying the idea of old age homes. We are inevitably falling in that trap because we have dissociated the individual from the family from the community from the village from the nation, and the nation from planet Earth. इसीलिए आज individuals में strife है आपस में, communities में strife है, villages में strife है, nations में strife है. That is why I say कि बच्चों ये जो system हम follow कर रहे हैं, it doesn't have a very long life. Somewhere, some ultimate, हम लोग का हो सकता है हमारे lifetime में implode हो जाए, या हमारे बच्चों का, या हमारे पोतों का, या उसके बादों का, but कहीं तो भी it is heading for disaster. So the best way to correct it is to realize the correct values, and those you can learn from our civilization, pick it up so that it is not lost forever. And one day we may be able to change course and take the right path for society, for human society. Over to you.
Okay, sir. So the next question asked by Anjali, I'm a final year student, and so her question is, a coronavirus like virus has been described in ancient Ayurvedic scripture about 5,000 years ago, chapter called Krivi, that is infections. So infection in the Chaya Samhita that describe an infection exactly like novel coronavirus. Similarly, various modern technology and medical treatment have been found in early scripture. Then why has India is not been accredited for those inventions?
Thank you for the question again. देखिए, अभी आज मैंने कुछ अनपैरेलल टेक्स्ट की बात करी. अब उसमें मैंने चरक संहिता या आयुर्वेदा इनकी तो बात ही नहीं करी. अब यूं समझिए, आयुर्वेदा में millions and millions of plants के बारे में उनका पूरा dichotomy, its effects, when you eat it, when you boil it, when you smell it, सब body of science have been written there. And this body of science का जो है ना आयुर्वेदा, it's matchless in the world. हम father of botany को किसी और को बोलते हैं. आप क्या botany सिखा रहे हैं मेरे को, जब हजारों साल पहले से हमारे आयुर्वेदा में all these things are documented and kept there. But tell me one thing.
So you're muted.
If that science does not get patronizing and support for about 800 years, how much that science will deteriorate? तो उसके कारण क्या हो जाता है कि काफी हद तक knowledge जो है ना वो थोड़ा लूज हो गया है. So today, even though we can claim them, but we can't bring it. It will take at least another 100 years because we have full promotion and attention to it. And to once again, पहले तो पूरे text को इकट्ठे करो, body of knowledge को समझो, document करो, and then look at कि पिछले 7-8 साल में क्या miss हो गया है, वो सबको भी उसमें include करो, and then take it forward, then try it, test it, and then so it will take at least 2+ years for us to come back to the original level. But once we come back, it will be a whole different thing for the world, because that without after effects, without side effects. But for that science to come back, हमें बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी, क्योंकि 700-800 साल तो हमने डिफाइन कर दिया पूरा science. That is why today, even though we can claim all these things, ना, it is not something we can go to the world and say, अरे भाई हमारे पास है, हमको recognize कीजिए, देखिए मेरे पास इसका क्यों है. Because we cannot apply that science to the methodology of the modern medical science. They're two different methodologies. So you have to approach them differently with full knowledge, and then you can master it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Now over to you, Palak.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Neha. It looks like we have covered all the questions and have reached the end of this webinar. Now, I would like to request co-convener Ananya Mishra ma'am to present a vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Palak. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
A very good evening to all of you. On behalf of Arya Mahila PG College, the Department of English, and the Indic Warriors, I extend my hearty gratitude to the people gathered here. I would start by thanking our respected manager, Dr. Shashikant Dikshit sir, for his blessings, and our principal, Professor Rachna Dubey ma'am, for her support in all our endeavors. I extend my gratitude to our honorable speaker, Mr. Mohan Rao Balaga sir, for taking out time from his busy schedule to grace this event. Sir, your talk on the 3 texts has been a true eye-opener personally, and I'm certain it will unlock new doors of ideas and thoughts among the students. I extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. Bhanumati Mishra ma'am for encouraging the students to rise above the ordinary and organize such webinars and thereby helping them develop their skills and thought process. I would like to thank all the faculty members at the Department of English, Arya Mahila PG College, who are ever ready to help and guide the students in all their endeavors. I must thank and admire the organizing team of students for working really hard these past few days and leaving no stone unturned in order to make this huge success. And last but not the least, a massive thank you to all and benefited from this webinar and enhanced its essence. Thank you all.
Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, you have shared a feedback form link in the chat box. Kindly fill the feedback form. And thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. Thanks again for joining us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Beta. Namaskar. Thank you very much, all of you.
Sir,
Can you photo session, please? So, just
Okay.
Mansi, can we have photo session? Photo, please. Is it done?
I think it's done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Beta. Thank you very much,
Thank
Tama.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Pleasure. All the best. Jai Hind.
Jai
Jai
Hind,
Hind,
sir.
sir.
much.